अमानित्वमदम्भित्वम् अहिंसा क्षान्तिरार्जवम् आचार्योपासनं शौचं स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहंकार एव च जन्म मृत्युजरा व्याधि दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिरणभिष्वङ्गः पुत्रदारगृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु मयि च अनन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अरतिर्जन संसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वम् तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यदतोऽन्यथा। अमानित्वम अदम्भित्वम ahimsa kshanti. Each one value we saw. Amanitvam, not demanding respect from others. Amanitvam. Adambitvam, absence of putting up friends which are not there, so behaving oneself different from what one is, in the sense through which I try to get some benefit. Putting up a friend, hypocrisy. So this is dambitvam. Adambitvam, absence thereof. We saw all that. Then ahimsa, non-injury. Kshantihi, accommodation. Arjavam, straightforwardness. Acharya upasanam, surrender to the teacher. Then shaucham, purity inside, outside. Stairyam, steadfastness. Atma vinigraha, control over one's ways of thinking more. Control over one's ways of thinking. Mastery over one's ways of thinking. It is called shamaha. Then, this much we saw. He continues, Indriyarteshu vairagyam anahankaraha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. The second line is one compound. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Indriyarteshu vairagyam. Vairagya means dispassion. Vito ragaha yasya. He is called viragaha. Tasya bhavaha vairagyam. The condition of a man, the condition of the mind of a man from whom great longings, cravings have dropped off. The disposition of the mind wherein cravings are dropped off. You see, to have a desire is one thing. To have a craving is entirely different. The people, those who, by analysis, inquiry, have come to appreciate the limitations of sense pursuits. And the object that I enjoy doesn't really give me what I need. If at all it gives me some happiness, it is tapped out of myself, not out of the object. The object is pleasing to my mind, and therefore I find some joy. But it is not the content of the object. So this appreciation brings about a certain change in our ways of thinking, in our values. So that changed condition of the mind is a mind that is in vairagya. That condition is called vairagya, dispassion. So that great longing, a man may go in for money because there is nothing that can replace money. And therefore he may go in for some money, But then if the money itself is the end in his life, it's entirely a different thing. And therefore, that is because he's a craving. He thinks that is going to solve all problems. And thus money has a practical role. In the world, there are many things that one requires, but all of them have a certain objective value, but an exaggerated value of things that you pursue for or that you need is called craving. Because of the exaggerated value, you crave for things in whose absence I will be unhappy, in whose presence alone I will be happy. They are called raga. A raga is, so this must be there in my life. What a life without this? Unless I have this, I can't be happy. So this kind of longing and craving is called raga. The one who doesn't enjoy that raga is a vairagi. Understand that? This is called vairagyam. So in the presence of things, well, I can be happy. In the absence of things, I am not going to be unhappy. So a condition, a satisfaction within myself, a degree of contentment with myself, a self-appreciation, a self-respect, a self-love, I would say. One should learn to love oneself as one is now. And the more one learns to love oneself, because there is a lot for one to love oneself. Because everything that in fact, if you love an object outside, it is not a love of the object in fact. It is a love for yourself alone. That because you love your own ananda, you love your own happiness, that object seems to evoke that happiness in you. It is able to bring out of yourself a mind that doesn't project, a mind that is pleased with itself. So such a mind, if anybody is able to bring out in you, that person you will definitely love. So a person whom you love, or a thing that you love, a flower that you love, it is an object that is able to, object or the person is one who is able to please your mind, or at least neutralizes your projection. He neutralizes your projection, or he positively pleases your mind, and because of your scales of value, so you get pleased because of this object, because you think this is beautiful, and that pleases your mind, and once the object is able to please, that object becomes an object of love. And a man whose mind is ever pleased, he is all love towards everybody. But now you have to decide who is going to please you. And now whom you think that the one whom you think pleases you can become an object of displeasure also. He can displease you because you want to be pleased. So your love there is a demanding love, and you are in for a rub. You are in for hurt. And therefore a person who just is pleased with himself, he is the only person who can extend love to others. He is the only person who can discover love for others, which is something abiding, which doesn't demand. That love will not hurt him. The one who enjoys that love will not be hurt by that love, and he will neither hurt others. So such a person is a man of love. This vairagya itself brings about love in you. So the craving for things. So this thing must be there, this should not be there. So this kind of definite likes and dislikes, so they make this man's life miserable. Because things you can't order as you want. You can't stall also events in your life which you don't want to have. So things do happen in spite of your efforts and wishes and will. And things you want to have, you will, you wish, you work, you put forth all efforts, but still you find that it is always in the offing, it doesn't come to you at all. And therefore, so a man whose life depends upon the presence and absence of these objects, well, he's what you call the barometer of happiness, his mercury of happiness will rise all right now and then, but generally is at the bottom. And thus he's, as I told you the other day, dukhi he is, in between he becomes what? If you remember that one Sanskrit word, dukhi, sukhi, sukhi. A drowned man has no problem. A man on the shore has no problem. The drowning man is a problem. The fellow drowns. People say, I am drowned in sorrow. You are not drowned in sorrow. You are drowning in sorrow. Change the verb. So it should be present continuous. You are you are drowning in sorrow. You are drowning in sorrow in as much as if he's drowned, he has no problem. And if he's on the shore, he has no problem. Drowning is always a problem for. Inside, the fellow can't breathe. He's choked to death, and therefore he just somehow struggles to come out and breathes a fresh air. The fellow feels he's on the top of the world, again drowned. And this is what is happening to this man. Dukhi, 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 sukhi. Dukhi, 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 sukhi. This is the lot of this fellow. Because the world sets your happiness. What a life, I tell you. If this world is going to make me happy or unhappy, I am helpless absolutely. I have delivered myself completely lock, stock and barrel into the hands of this world. And this decides, the weather decides whether I should be happy or not. So the weather decides. So the seasons decide. Objects decide, mute objects, they decide whether I should be happy or not. And the people decide I should be happy or not. And therefore, they don't really decide. Your own hang-ups inside, they decide in fact. The world is always bright and beautiful, for the Lord made it all. And therefore, it doesn't pose any problem at all. You must have read that nursery rhyme when you were young. You know that? The world is, all is bright and beautiful, because God the Lord made it all. Is it so? I mean, I don't remember the whole thing, but once upon a time I read it. So all things are bright and beautiful. Only if the mind is bright and beautiful. If this mind is always craving, demanding mind, so that mind will naturally find this world is too hot for him to live in, and therefore he wants to get out, he wants to drop out. But unfortunately, when he drops out, he is again drops into the world alone. He is not outside the world. Again, wherever he goes, he is the same fellow alone. And therefore, we have to settle account with ourselves. As I said in the beginning itself, there is nothing in fact for him to complain about. Everything that he requires is in himself, as we will see later. There is nothing, as we have been seeing. All that he fundamentally needs in his life is himself, and all that he wants is fundamental also. All that he wants in his life is fundamental. He doesn't want, that is why nothing satisfies him. Therefore, he doesn't want anything topical. The topical things he may require, but with that he is not satisfied anyway. And therefore, the whole, the soul, the heart wants something fundamental. He wants to solve the problem once and for all. And therefore, he has got to get it also fundamentally. And if that all that I have to get is with myself, there is no room for this man to pull a long face at any time. And thus, so because all that I seek is myself, I have to claim what I have. And then hence Bhagavan says, so the one who thus appreciates this fact and the limitations of these pursuits, and he develops a disposition or finds in himself a disposition which is called vairagyam, dispassion. Then again, janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Remember always one thing. Death is always around the corner. And therefore, don't be afraid of it. You understand? The attitude is entirely different. So a man who knows that death is round the corner, his attitude will be very positive. The man who thinks that he is going to die after 25 years, his attitude in life will be different. He has got time to postpone. But for this fellow, for whom the death is round the corner, he doesn't bother about because which corner he doesn't know. And therefore, as long as it is not there, now I am alive is much more real. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Janma means birth. Jara means old age. Vyadi means disease. Janma mrityu means death. So Janma and Mrityu. Born he will die. And therefore birth means death is the other side of the coin. There is no question of you are going to remain there permanently, because dead he is not born is a miracle. Born he will die is again a natural thing. Or born he didn't die is again a miracle. That he is still breathing alive is a miracle. The fellow pops off, it is but natural. Because somebody beautifully expresses this death nicely. He says, what is death? He breathes his last. The breath has gone out. Okay, he's a Sanskrit poet. He says, breath has gone out? then why are you pulling a long face? For that, why are you sorrowful? It is very natural. How it is natural? I tell you. Suppose here is a bladder, a football bladder, a balloon, and it has air inside. You tie the neck of it, and the blow is inside. Is it a miracle? Is it a miracle? Nothing. Because there is no, anywhere there is no puncture, and it is airtight, and the air is inside. Is it a miracle? No. Now I give you another balloon. Here is a balloon. And in this balloon, I make 9 punctures. 10 punctures, 9 punctures I make. And the blow is inside still. It's a miracle. This is not the 10th wonder, the first wonder of the world. It's the 8th wonder. 8th wonder it is not. The first wonder. There in America, in Humboldt University, there is one balloon. That balloon has in itself 8, 9 punctures, 10 punctures. One of those punctures is so big. That's such a big puncture. And in spite of all these punctures, yawning punctures it has got, in spite of that, the blow abides in the balloon. Miracle. You can collect money, $1 for every ticket to see that. And who is that miracle? Yourself is the balloon. So this physical body is a balloon. And this, it has got so many punctures. With all these punctures, still the breath has not gone out, it has not gone out. It has not become flat. It is something that you should thank all gods for that. It's a miracle. If it goes, it goes. It is something very natural, please. This is what a Sanskrit poet puts it that way. It's very natural. Every fellow is a pack of diseases. In fact, he's a radiator of diseases. If you don't radiate light and knowledge, at least you radiate, your contribution is radiation of diseases. You keep radiating each one. Well, he has got cold and he will see that he gives to 25 fellows. Even though he doesn't want to give, but it is given all right. So thus the people also pick it up immediately. Thus each one is a pack of diseases. And which is the physical body that is not born with disease? It is born, as it is born, it picks up, it is born with diseases. And afterwards picks up every other day diseases. And therefore it is not morning also, morning it is not all right, evening it is rather better. And again early morning it is not good. Well, today is very good, evening is not good. In between is not good, somewhere here pain, here pain, here pain. And stomach is not all right, everything is not. Thus you find the whole lifetime this fellow has got enough things to complain about. If you want to write, you please make a book of all your complaints so far. Why 1 month complaint, daily morning onwards you please, that you just write about all the complaints you have got. You will find it is a very big book and it will read also very nicely, if you know how to write it. About if you want to write, you please make a book of all your complaints so far. Why 1 month complaint, daily morning onwards you please, that you just write about all the complaints you have got. You will find it is a very big book and it will read also very nicely, if you know how to write it. You don't require a subject matter for book and all that. This is enough. So your own diseases, daily diseases. So diseases means don't think you must be flat. Any small little pain anywhere, it is enough. Dullness of the stomach is enough. And thus there are hundreds of diseases are there. So if you keep complaining all of them, just to jot them down, it is a very good, I would say, a good thing to while away your time, and it will form a beautiful reading material for others. Because they will see themselves in that book. And therefore, every physical body is a pack of diseases. And that it is alive and kicking in spite of all these, it is a marvel. It is a marvel. All are standing in the queue. Only we don't know who is in front of us. That's thank God. Because we are all in the queue of death. And who is in front of me, I don't know, it is very good. Otherwise, I will count all the fellows, 5 fellows are there. In India, so the government officers gain promotion when they see in order. The order. There are 10 fellows up. So all these 10 fellows should retire, or that fellow should die, or should retire. Then alone he can go up. Till then he has no promotion at all. Therefore this fellow prays for their quick retirement. All the time he has to pray. Then only he can go up. Similarly, if there are 25 fellows, he has no hope for retirement, he has no hope for promotion. And then the fellow becomes more frustrated. Oh, 20 fellows are there. I don't think I will get any promotion. Similarly, suppose there are 10 fellows in front of you. You will begin dying from now on. Because 10 fellows, if one fellow gone, there's only 9 fellows are there. Another fellow is gone. So you will begin dying from now on. And therefore one fellow said, so there was a capital punishment in a kingdom. So in this it's a capital punishment, means the one fellow is, for any small little crime, the fellow is hanged. There was no crime at all. And one fellow was bold, and he was a single, and he decided to steal. He was caught. And he was caught, red-handed he was caught, and therefore the capital punishment was given. The king came to the fellow as he was being hanged. He came to him and asked him, have you got any last wish? A last wish they generally fulfill if it is a small wish. You can't say, please release me. But then you can ask for something. You can ask for something. I want a Coca-Cola, you can say. So you can give. That's all. Small wishes if you have got, well, they are ready to fulfill. So this fellow, he came and asked, the king asked, what do you want? Have you got any small little wish? And he said, Maharaj means, O king, Maharaj, I have one small little desire. Yes? What is that? I would like to just repeat a verse, a Sanskrit verse, which I have just now composed. Oh, you could compose a verse? You are a thief? Could compose a verse? And the king was a very great supporter of Pandits and poets. So he said, living as I am in your kingdom, where the Pandits are all supported so much, I find in myself an imp of a poet who has just now composed a verse before he goes to the gallows. Please just lend me your royal ears. He was so pleased. He said, oh, that is the easiest thing that I can do, pleasantest thing. And therefore, please come out with the song. And this fellow said in Sanskrit, Bhattir nashtaha bharavischapi tata, bhikshur nashtaha bhimasenopi tata, bukkundoham bhupatischtvam, babhavalyam antakas sannivishtaha. In Sanskrit, now in Sanskrit we have got this ka, kha, ki, like this. We have got in every order. So ka, all vowels. To the consonant you add the vowels and you get letters. So there's kaka, kiki, kuku, keke, papa, pipi, pupu, pepe, pa, pa, pi, like this. This is the order. Now this fellow says, now there was one Bhatti. There was a minister, a very great administrator. He is no more. What a great administrator he was. But then we have lost him. And this man is no more. And there was a great poet who was called Bharavi, and he also is gone. And there was a bhikshu, a great mathematician, he is also no more. A Bhimasena, a great astrologer, he is also gone. I am Bukkundaha. I am a Bukkunda. My name is Bukkunda. I am going now. But what I am afraid is you are Bhupati, he said. Means that Bha Bhatti, first letter. Second letter is Bha Bharavi. I am B Bhikshu, B Bhimasena. Then the fifth letter is Bhu Bukkunda. I am going right now. You are going to just now hang me and I will die. Bukkunda. But your name is Bhupati. That is the next letter. Why? Because I feel the Lord Death has entered into the series of Baba, Bibi, Bubu, Bebe. Baba, Bibi, Bubu, Bebe, Bai. So thus you have He seems to have entered into the series of Baba Bibi, and boo gone means boo you will be, and you will die. That is exactly what worries me now. When I go away, you will be next to me. And therefore, because you are in the queue, and this everyone is in the queue, and fellow immediately thought over, oh, that is true. For a small thing like this, we should not give capital punishment. Because he decided and released him. So completely. So Baba Valyam Pantaka Sannivishtaha. Because everyone is in the queue. And therefore we only don't know who is in front. That is very great. It may be a younger fellow to me, or elder to me. Who is going first and who is going behind, I don't know. And that only makes the life much more charming. Otherwise, this idiot will begin dying from now on. Suppose he knows that he is going to die after 25 days. Do you think that this fellow will live 25 days? All the time, these 25 days he will die. Unless he is a man of positivity. So if he is a positive person, even 7 days were given. I just wrote in that, this Parikshit was a king. He knew that only 7 days are before him. In these 7 days, he gained the entire knowledge. He said, I am not going to listen to anything. I am not going to do anything. I got only 7 days. I had lived a life of a king for all these years. I have served the people, I have served the kingdom. But now this is time for myself to serve myself. And hence he said, these 7 days I am going to shut myself, and I am going to get a teacher. He found a great teacher in Sukha, Vyasa's son. And he found in him a great teacher. And he got himself liberated within 7 days. In the sense, in 7 days he got all the knowledge. So as you all got, So in the 7 days, if the mind is alert, 7 days he was all readiness. And therefore he got the knowledge just in 7 days. It all depends how prepared is the mind. And this Parikshit, even though he knew, Parikshit was the name of a king, even though he knew that he was going to die in 7 days, his mind was so positive that the 7 days he made into 7 really what you can't get in 7 ages, he got in 7 days. That is because the mind was ready. So this is called positivity. So that I am alive now. The moment is the only reality in time, and that moment I am exposed to, I am alive to, and this is something very real. The past is a dead thing. The future is always in store. I don't know when it is going to come or whether it is going to come. Am I going to be there to invite the future or welcome the future? I don't know. Now is the only moment, and the one who is always, and again, that I am going to be bright enough as I am now. Well, it is not there. So between sanity and insanity, the difference is not very much, please. And therefore, a man who is now sane and can become insane just like that, it takes only one thing. He saw a bug and he got frightened. A bug got stuck up in his mind, and then bug all the time, bug. He began behaving like a bug. One fellow got stuck up with the idea of a monkey, and therefore I saw this fellow. He went on thinking about a monkey, and he got stuck up with the idea of monkey. He felt he was a monkey, and therefore whenever he walked, he always wanted a clearance for his tail. Because he was afraid that it will be trampled upon. Therefore he used to see behind and then walk slowly, taking the tail which was not there. You don't require any, time to get yourself stuck up with some idea like that. This is called fixation. And therefore, so the difference between a normal man and abnormal man, it is not much difference. In fact, we are all normal, subject to become abnormal. Is it not true? Who is a normal man? A normal man is one who is subject to become abnormal now and then. When you become mad, as you say, mad, American expression. When you get angry, say mad. So when you become mad, you are abnormal at that time. You are not a normal person. But then you come back again. Therefore, we call you normal. Suppose you became mad and continue to travel there itself. You don't come down, come back again. And that fellow is abnormal, is it not? And therefore, a normal man is one who is subject to become abnormal. And if he becomes abnormal and continues to travel in the same state for a length of time, we call him mental. Not abnormal, still more. What I say, it doesn't make much difference. And therefore, so the mind itself is such a tricky thing. and the body itself is again, it is a pack of diseases, and therefore I just do what I can do, and then the present moment is something that is very, very precious for me. I have no time to postpone. I want to see the problem right now, and I want to solve it right now. I don't let pass a moment of experience without making me more shining than what I was before. Every moment of experience unfolds something to me, and therefore I don't let pass every experience, any experience that I don't let it pass without myself becoming wiser for that experience. And this person is a positive person. He learns not only through books, please, not only through teachers, and he can learn a good lot of other things he learns by his own experiences. Don't think we were all taught by some masters and all that. So these examples and daily experience, all this, there's only because eyes and ears are open. Therefore I see the people. Naturally we just pick up. We don't require any example. We don't read books for examples, please. So you have to see your own life, you see the others' lives. Your own funny mind you had studied once, and you see the others' minds also, of course. Then it all becomes very clear, and therefore all the life is full of what you call experiences to teach you lessons if only you are ready to pick them up. But I'm talking these lessons, I'm not comparing those lessons as the lessons that are being taught here. This is an entirely different thing. But then these lessons are good enough to make me more wise, and then learn more and more, and then begin to pursue with a purpose. And then my life itself gains a direction and a purpose. And thus Bhagavan says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. Don't think you will be permanently young. Don't think so. And therefore, so Jara will come. Don't postpone. People generally are bound to postpone after retirement. In India especially, this is something common nowadays. Somebody, after retirement, I'm going to study Gita. Where is the guarantee that you are not going to retire before retirement? Number one, for good, retire for good. And again, even suppose you retire, do you think that's good? You can do that. But suppose you are not that bright in your ears, you can't see properly, you can't hear properly, you can't sit properly, and you can't stretch your legs, you can't do anything. Anything you do, there is some problem. Somewhere in one corner of your body is a problem. And if you can't do it now, do you think that you can do it later? And again, are you ready to be unhappy till retirement? Then only your argument is good. Then it is good. If you are not ready to be unhappy till retirement, then what are you going to do? Please tell me, up to retirement, what are you going to do? Now, are you going to have a program with unhappiness? And thus, if you have, that is all right. And if you want to make really life, then there is no time for it. The man who recognizes the problem, and he has this time now, right now with him, this is something real, and therefore Bhagavan says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So this dosha, the defect of limitations. So the limitations of this life must be seen by you so that the moment is made use of. And again Bhagavan says, one has got to be amidst possessions. One can't be away from possessions. Possession is something that you are always having. Even your physical body is a possession. You are not the owner thereof. I told you in the morning. So this physical body you are not the owner for. There are other people who have made this body. Then again, there are people who have been working for this body to go. The people who till the land, who give you all things that are necessary to keep the body going, all of them are all contributors for this making of this body and for the sustenance of this body. I have no sole claim over this body. I can't say I am the owner. But then I am the possessor, all right. It is in my possession, fine. And therefore, if it is in my possession and claimed by so many people, then definitely I can't afford to be negligent to this body. Nor I will have to pamper it because it is somebody's body anyway. And therefore, I won't have that extra attachment to this body. Much less I can afford to neglect it because it is not my body. What is your body? That is why suicide is also a crime. If a homicide is a crime, suicide also is a crime. As a small little boy, I used to think, I say, homicide is a crime. Because homicide means murder. So murder is a crime. because you have no right to make the other fellow die. And therefore you kill that fellow, and therefore it is because he wants to live, and you have no right to kill him. That is a crime. That is fine. I used to think, how it is my own body, suppose I want to put an end to this body, then why should the government interfere in this? How can this be a crime? I used to think. Then afterwards I found out, it took a long number of years for me to find out, that this body doesn't belong to me in fact. I only possess this body. Like even somebody, suppose he gives a car to you in trust, and he asks you to please keep it for a month, and I will come and take it. Keep it running, sir. That's when he gives it to you. You will keep that car much more shining than your car, is it not? Your car, it can be in the garage, you need not even clean it. But his car you will clean, because it is given to you in trust. You will take care of it much more carefully. You will look after it, because it is somebody's car. And similarly, this body is given to me, in fact, by my parents, by elements, by so many things, by so many forces, it is given to me. And therefore, I have no claim over this body to say that this is my body. I can only say I possess this body. In British law, as in American laws, I'm sure, the possessor need not be the owner. Nowadays, laws are changing in different countries, but here the possessor need not be the owner, I'm sure. Between ownership and possession, there is a difference. You may be the owner, but you may not possess it. You may possess the house, you may not be the owner. You are only a tenant. Somebody is the owner. And anything happens to the house, as long as your things are safe and you are safe, you are not going to worry about that. It is that fellow who has got this ownership, he is going to worry. Think of it, this ownership is something that is notional. Possession is real. You just, in the sense, you happen to possess something like the body, like the house. These are all things that I happen to possess. But what I own is always notional, please. Now suppose you have been living in a flat, and this flat, this man who is the owner, he says, you have been a tenant of mine for a number of years, and I've been a very good tenant. I had no problem with you, and therefore I am very happy to give this flat to you. You please take this flat. Thus he has given you this flat or a house, he gave it to you. You received the letter, the document, everything came, you saw in a big, envelope, the whole thing came, you were so happy, and thereafterwards, your relationship with that flat or the house is an entirely different thing. Now immediately you go to a real estate man and find out what is the value of this flat or the house. So what is the value of this house? You want to know. That fellow thinks that you are going to sell it. But he doesn't want to sell. He wants to know how much I am the owner of. That's all. Nothing else. The house remaining the same. He has not moved out of the house. It is all the same. But immediately the whole mind changes. Your attitude completely changes. The relationship changes. Now you are the owner. And your look at the house also will be different. As this fellow from the post office, as he goes to the house, well, his way of going there is again looking at the house is entirely different. When he places his first step on the house, it is different. It is my house. It is my house now. And now the walls all look different now. These are all walls. Now he will check up also whether these walls are RCC and how it is. Now he will check up everything for this is my house. In those days, so anybody, he used to strike nails everywhere. Now, nothing doing. Nobody can do that also to anybody because it is my house now. Thus the fellow's attitude completely changes. I am the owner of this flat, he says. It is a flat in the 3rd floor of a 38-floor building. So in that, this fellow is the owner of the 3rd floor. I asked this fellow, I say, are you the owner? Yes, I am the owner. And what is it that you are owning there? I would like to know. I asked him. Swamiji, this flat, he took me to the flat and he showed me this flat. I got this enlightenment in Bombay once. In the beginning when I went to Bombay, I didn't know that a man can own a flat. And therefore I asked him, I say, so what is it? You say you have got your own flat. What is that? This is the flat. He took me there. He was in the 3rd floor. And then it had so many other floors on the top. And this is the third floor, one of the flats. So 25th flat in the 3rd floor. I saw the flat and I asked him, I say, there are 2 fellows down below, aren't they? He said, yes, there are 2 fellows. Then to whom belongs the ground, I asked, on which this after all, you say, I am the owner of the house. Now you are a flat. The ground should belong to you. And without owning the ground, how can you become a house owner? This I could not understand because I had never heard of this before. And therefore I asked him, how is it possible? In Madras city it was not there. In other cities that I had visited it was not there. It was a recent thing. And therefore this was some years before, when I heard that, I said, how come without owning the ground, how can you ever own a house? And then he said, no, Swamiji, this flat I own. The ground who owns? All of us own, in fact. Nobody owns. There is a society and a building society, a super entity, and that owns the ground. That means nobody owns the ground. Then what do you own? I own the flat, Swamiji, I told you, a 3-room flat. I own the flat. Okay, still my mind didn't understand this. So I went into this flat. I said, in this flat, what do you really own? Please tell me. Swamiji, this floor I own, this ground, this floor I own. I say, down below there is another fellow. That is true. And it should be his ceiling, is it not? Yes, that is true, it is his ceiling. In fact, if I make some noise, the fellow comes up and asks me, is it your grandfather's house? What do you think? And all that, he comes and asks. Therefore, so the floor is the ceiling of the fellow down below. That is true, Swamiji, that is true. It is the ceiling of that fellow. Then what do you want? The ceiling, Swamiji, ceiling. I say, that is the ground for the floor for the other fellow. That is true. The other day I want to fix up a fan. That fellow came down like a genie and then he picked up a fight with me. What do you think? I am sleeping there and you are just doing all kinds of things? That is his floor. That is true. That is his floor. Then what do you want? Swamiji, these walls. I say, left wall is the right wall of the other fellow. The right wall is the left wall of the other fellow. What do you want? Swamiji, this space I own. I say, the entire space is yours. You take the whole space I am giving you. All space is What do you want? I don't understand what you really want. It is nothing but space. And this is the ownership. Absolutely meaningless. Nobody wants any blessed thing in this world. You can't own your own nose, and you can't poke your nose into others' ownership anyway. And therefore this fellow is one who you have nothing to own. You have nothing to own. Think it over. You have nothing to own. You have got something to possess. If that is very clear, you will have asakti. Asakti means freedom from ownership. There is no asakti. There is no ownership. I move freely. I only possess things. I have nothing to really own to just peg me down. To own is to limit also. To say that I am the owner of that particular flat is to say silently, without mention, that I am not the owner of all the flats in that building. I am not the owner of all the buildings in the street. I am not the owner of all the streets in the locality. I am not the owner of the localities in the city. I am not the owner of the cities in the country. I am not the owner of the countries in the continent. I am not the owner of the continents on the globe. I am not the owner of the planets in the solar system. And again, I am not the owner of the systems in the whole universe. And then what you are the owner of? You are the owner of a speck of a thing, which you can't put it even on a map of the universe. A dot is something that you can see. The very earth itself cannot be a dot. On this earth, 2/3 is water, 1/3 is land. In this vast land, and again you find that in the vast, no doubt, but it cannot be indicated in the map of the universe as a dot, this earth. This 1/3 land, again that earth itself is again 1/3 of it is land. And in 1/3 land you are there occupying in a continent called America. In America, suppose in San Francisco is again our country. So somewhere in one corner in San Francisco, and there one flat in a street, there are streets and streets and streets. In the street you are there in one house. The house has got 42 floors, and in that you are there somewhere in the 25th floor, in a corner, a flat. Think of it. So this fellow, if you are the owner of that flat, you are not the owner of all other things in the creation. That means what? One side is ownership, the other side of the coin is limitation. You can't avoid it, please. Once you say I am the owner, you also say quietly I am limited. That means what? You can't stand the limitation. Therefore, you want to own more. And you can own more, you can own how much you can own. And still you will be the fellow and who doesn't own anything. There is a fellow dies of malnutrition at the end of it. Remember, there is no, because the sense of ownership is one side of the coin, sense of limitation is the other side thereof, and therefore if the man cannot stand a sense of limitation, therefore he can't afford to have a sense of ownership. Possess you do, no doubt. All these possessions, I only just possess things. And I find myself amidst a few people. That is called family. Each one is something like a fellow is moving in a train. The train is the generation. It is moving, each one finds himself in a compartment. If you are a man who travels, you get into a compartment. You find already one or two fellows are there. And two other fellows also join there. So this is the compartment. This is called a family place. And there you first talk to each other and things like that. You become very friendly. And you are all very happy there. And this fellow stands, he buys ice cream for you and you say, I will pay. And no, you don't pay, I will pay. All you become very chummy, great friends now. And then the station comes, when his destination comes, he doesn't say goodbye, he just takes his baggage and walks off. And you take your baggage, you walk off. And in between, make your journey pleasant. And thus this fellow, and so thus he doesn't quarrel with the people around. And this is what they call a family. And the whole generation is in the train. And thus each one goes with his baggage. And in between they join together, live a happy life for some time. And then each one picks up his baggage of Punya Papa and then walks off. Punya Papa means these good and bad actions. The results thereof, each one just walks away. And this is even Tata he can't say, goodbye he can't say. And thus each one goes away at the end of the whole journey. Thus, where does he get down? I don't know. That is another thing. Which station he get down? At what point of time he gets down? I don't know. And each one, of course, he himself doesn't know that is also. He's journeying all right, holding on to some ticket, and then he gets down. This is the life, and therefore, a man who he doesn't possess there, that this is my compartment, he doesn't possess. And this person is one who has got asaktihi, means he has possessions all right. The physical body to begin with, and a number of other possessions I have. None of them I can carry along with me, nor I brought them along with me. And I find they are all there. I assembled them, some of them together, and I just made a beautiful home. I lived a very happy life, and then I walk off with my memories, if at all I carry memories. And this man who has got that kind of freedom from ownership, he is the one who doesn't project. He has no problem, in fact. So many of the problems they disappear from him because there is nothing to own, therefore more owning is not there. That longing for more securities and more crutches he doesn't have. In fact, a man who wants securities is the one who is insecure. The one who is insecure on his own hands, he is the one who wants crutches. Not a man who can stand on his legs, he wants crutches. You can't present a fellow, a small little boy, when he was young, and he wanted a perambulator. And you couldn't buy him at that time. And then after 25 years, you could afford to buy now a perambulator. And you give him a perambulator. On your birthday gift, come on, perambulator. And what will you think? Please think of it. And so only when he was young, of course, he wanted crutches. He wanted some help to stand on. But once he grew up, and this fellow could find enough strength on his legs. They are no more supple, and he knows how to stand on his legs and how to walk and run and kick also. And therefore, to that fellow, there is no crutches necessary. Similarly, we want psychological crutches. Still, we are children in our mind. We want so many emotional crutches and a lot of securities. We want crutches. Because we have not grown up. Our mind is still supple, as it were, and like even the legs of a baby. And therefore, this fellow, so many securities he wants. Why? He feels insecure. So inside, as long as he feels insecure, he wants securities, he wants to hold on to a million things. And the more you hold on to things, the more you are insecure. Is it not true? And what do you hold on is insecure again. None of them is secure. The money is not secure. Title is not secure, power is not secure. And nothing is secure. If you hold on to insecure things, then you all the time you apprehend the danger of losing them. And therefore the fellow becomes more insecure, I tell you. And there is the freedom is not by holding securities which are insecure in nature, but only freeing oneself from those securities. And that is called asakti, the one who is able to give away something happily. You need not give up anything. If you discover in yourself a mind which can happily give up things, you need not give up anything, please. But then you should discover a mind in yourself which can give up anything. Anything that you possess, because I don't require that for my security. And that mind is a mind that is amidst possessions. It has no sense of ownership, please. And again, in possessions again, what should be the attitude? Wife is a possession. Possession means you live with, that's all. Possession means not that, understand that. So, you live with. Wife is a possession. Children are possessions, sacred possessions. House and things, these are all possessions. There, what should be my attitude? Bhagavan says that also. All right, I have no ownership, but I have possessions. But the possessions also, they bring about a great attachment. So what shall I do? He says, Putra dara grihadishu anabhishwangaha. Towards your son, dara, wife, griha, house, very practical, please. Putra dara grihadishu, and car, adishu, etc. Car and all that is included there. So, adi, etc. means all these are included. The son, the wife, the car, etc. In all of them, putra dara grihadishu, in all of them, towards all of them, na atisnehaha. Abhishwangaha means atisnehaha. Fast attachment. Sneha means gum is called sneha. Glue is called sneha. What is viscous is called sneha. Therefore, mentally, this fellow is glued on to the wife and children and the house. And therefore, since he is glued on to them, he can never be out of them, number one, because he is glued on. And the wife and children, they can't also grow up, because this fellow is a dead weight on them. And therefore, they can't grow. And hence, he says, you love them, because you have to, that's why he uses the word, na atisnehaha, not fast attachment. Love is necessary, affection is necessary, and that is very good, so that all of them can grow. You can grow in love, and the other one also can grow in love. The children grow also in the atmosphere of love, but not even in attachment. In attachment, the children really are bogged down. They don't grow really, because all the time you want the child to be like this, to be like this, to be like this. And then it feels that it is, the mother is always nagging, a nagging mother. If it is love, you can tell the child, always you should tell the child what is correct, what is wrong. Until it grows, it has to know what is right, what is wrong. And it has to be told. But later, then the child, but at the same time, it should be told in such a way and with love. Because there is no way in all this. You can't teach how to be a mother, in fact. But you will find out. But what is necessary is that love is there, affection is there. Then that will bring about all that is necessary to bring up a child. And nothing more. So in the child, I don't find any return from the child. I just do all that I can do to the children I do. In that itself I find a satisfaction, as a mother generally does. So he finds satisfaction in the very service, in doing all that I could do with great love and affection to the children. In that I find satisfaction, not later what the child is going to do to me. This later business is not there for whom, and that fellow is the one who enjoys na atisnehaha, no great attachment towards wife and children. In that his heart is alive with love, at the same time not lost in anything, and it is helpful for both. For the other persons also it is helpful, and for him also it is helpful. Over-attachment is always detrimental to the growth of children, the growth of individuals to whom you are attached to. Is it not true? So if anybody becomes possessive of you, possession is one thing and possessiveness is different. So becomes possessive of you. And suppose the girl goes out just to buy something and his fellow is suspicious. And anything, any small little thing, and nothing can, that fellow, immediately they feel, oh, this fellow is an idiot, therefore go to the court. But that's the end of it. So this is because that possessiveness. The other one also is possessive, apprehensive all the time. That is because there is no real love inside. It's all possessiveness. Love plus possessiveness. And this, the one Bhagavan says here, keep your maturity here, means independence here. So be rooted in your own strength and give love. And everything grows very well. Under the shade of a vast tree, another tree cannot grow up. You must remember always that. If there is a vast tree, under the tree, another great tree cannot grow up. And thus it has to have its sunshine. It has to be little away. And it is always good that it grows.